Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we are going to talk about communication strategy. Yeah. First of all, the introduction. For most people, the main goal of learning a foreign language is to be able to communicate. It is through communication that people send and receive messages effectively and negotiate meaning. Nowadays, how to communicate effectively in foreign language learning becomes much more important than reading and writing. As a result, communication strategies have turned into a crucial topic for all foreign language learners and teachers. There are some issues found in students learning foreign languages. Most students have no intention of communicating in English, nor do they feel the need to do so. The reason for this may contribute to their limited knowledge of English. Students also often encounter unfamiliar words and phrases that inhibit their communication. Such situations may prevent them from expressing themselves effectively. Thus, learners need to learn how to restore face-to-face conversation when they meet a communication breakdown in their conversations. And then overview of communication strategy. Basically, communicative strategies are attempts made by creative language learners to circumvent their linguistic difficulties or inadequacies in order to communicate with the listener or interlocutor. Such strategies are generally used when the limited knowledge of learners makes it difficult for them to express their intended message. It was Selinka, 1977, who first used the term communicative strategies or strategies of second language communication to refer to one of the processes that is responsible for producing interlanguage errors. He defined communicative strategy as an identifiable approach by the learner to communicate with the native speakers of the target language. On the other hand, Taron, 1981, describes communicative strategies as a systematic attempt by the learner to express and decode meanings in the target language in situations where the appropriate systematic target language used has not been formed. Communicative strategies therefore serve to compensate for the inadequacies of speakers and listeners in the target language which is being used. In addition, Felix in Taron 1981 notes that the real issue with communication strategies is to determine how the learner utilizes his limited knowledge to cope with various communication situations. From these conditions, communication strategies may be viewed as attempts to bridge the gap between the language knowledge of the second language learner and the linguistic knowledge of the target language interlocutor in real communication situations. Taron 1981 proposes three basic criteria which characterize a communication strategy. First, a speaker desires to communicate a meaning X to a listener. Second, the speaker believes that the linguistic or social-linguistic structure desired to communicate meaning X is not available or is not shared with the listener. And third, the speaker chooses to avoid to communicate meaning X or to attempt to alternate means to communicate meaning X. The importance of the importance of strategic competence in communication has been widely recognized since Canal and Swain, 1980, included it as one of the components in their well-known construct of communicative competence. They defined it as verbal and non-verbal strategies that may be called into action to compensate for breakdowns in communication due to performance variables or to insufficient competence. The four components of communicative competence are as follows. Number one, grammatical competence, that is the knowledge of the language code, such as grammatical rules, vocabulary, pronunciation, spelling, etc. Number two, discourse competence, that is the ability to combine language structures into different types of cohesive texts. Number three, social linguistic competence, that is the mastery of the sociocultural code of language use, such as appropriate application of vocabulary, register, politeness, and style in a given situation. Number four, strategic competence, which refers to the knowledge of verbal and nonverbal communication strategies which enhance the efficiency of communication and, where necessary, enable the learner to overcome difficulties when communication breakdowns occur. There are different ways of classifying communication strategies. Some of them are the Torrance taxonomy, Donier's taxonomy, and Selse-Murcia taxonomy. Torrance taxonomy 1981 classified communication strategies as follows. 1. Topic avoidance. When learners are already aware of gaps in their repertoire, an obvious strategy is to try to avoid occasions which will present difficulty. Number 2. Message abandonment. When learners encounter a problem while a communication is actually taking place, it is therefore too late to use avoidance, except they simply abandon their message. Number 3. The use of paraphrase. A learner may use a paraphrase, description, or circumlocution in order to express the meaning which he wants to express. D. Coinage, or creating new words. A learner may create a new word or phrase which he hopes will express the derived meaning. And then next, a native language switching. Instead of attempting to create a new word with the language target material, a speaker or a learner may decide to simply lift a word from his own native language. 6. Miming, the use of non-linguistic resources. The learner often uses non-linguistic resources to make his meaning clearer. And then the last one, appeal for assistance. A learner may seek help from outside. This may simply mean using a bilingual dictionary. Donier's taxonomy. Donier's classified communication strategies into two branches, which reveal two the opposite directions in communication. One is avoiding and the other is compensating. Avoidance strategies can be further broken down into several subtypes, such as phonological avoidance, syntactic or lexical avoidance, and topic avoidance. These strategies may be an effective way but not a beneficial way for foreign language learners. Compensatory strategies, on the other hand, involve compensation for missing knowledge. He outlines 11 types of compensatory strategies in a very comprehensive way, which include circumlocution, word coinage, prefabricated patterns, appealing for help, and stalling or time-gaining strategies. These strategies can be elaborated as follows, yeah. And then avoidance strategies. Number 1, message abandonment, leaving a message unfinished because of language difficulties. Number 2, topic avoidance, avoiding topic areas or concepts that pose language difficulties. The compensatory strategies. Number 1, circumlocution, describing or exemplifying the target object or action. Number 2, approximation, using an alternative term which expresses the meaning of the target lexical item as closely as possible. Number 3, use of all-purpose words, extending a general empty lexical item to context where specific words are lacking. Word coinage. Number 4, creating a non-existing L2 word based on a supposed rule. Number 5, prefabricated patterns, using memorized stock phrases, usually for survival purposes. Number 6, non-linguistic signals, mime, gesture, facial expression, or sound imitation. Number 7, literal translation, translating literally as a lexical item, idiom, compound word, or structure from L1 to L2. Number 8, foreignizing, using a L1 word by adjusting it into L2 phonology and morphology. Number 9, code switching, using a L1 word with L1 pronunciation or a L3 word with L3 pronunciation while speaking in L2. Number 10, appeal for help, asking for aid from the interlocutor, either directly. And number 11, stalling or time-gaining strategies, using filters or hesitation devices to fill pauses and to gain time to think. And then the Sales and Murcia 1995 classified communication strategies into five main types. A. Avoidance or reduction strategies, message replacement. They are message replacement, topic avoidance, and message abandonment. B. Achievement or compensatory strategies. They are circumlocution, approximation, all-purpose words, non-linguistic means, restructuring, word coinage, literal translation from L1, code switching to L1 or L3, and retrieval. And C. Stalling or time-gaining strategies. They are filters, hesitation devices, and gambits, self and other repetition. D. Self-monitoring strategies. They are self-initiated repair and self-rephrasing or over elaboration. And E. Interactional strategies. They are appeal for help, direct and indirect, meaning negotiation strategies, indicators of non or misunderstanding, the requests, repetition requests, clarification requests, confirmation requests, and then the expressions of non-understanding, verbal and non-verbal, and interpretive summary responses such as repetition, rephrasing, expansion, reduction, confirmation, rejection, and repair. And then the comprehension checks whether the interlocutor can follow you, whether what you said was correct or grammatical, whether the interlocutor is listening, or whether the interlocutor can hear you. And then the pedagogical implication, yeah, teachers play an important role in conveying communication strategies to students and assisting them to practice the target language. Foreign language learners should be taught communication strategies so as to improve their strategic competence. Some steps that can be done to help students are raising student awareness, explicitly teaching strategies, providing opportunities for practice and evaluation. The real-life communication in foreign language is frequently problematic for learners, therefore, they might benefit from instruction on how to cope with performance problems. Such instruction could include the specific teaching of communication strategies, which involve various verbal and non-verbal means of dealing with difficulties and breakdowns that occur in everyday communication. Um, in conclusion, communication strategy is one of the components of communicative competence. Learning a language is not complete without learning communication strategy, even though if learners have learned grammar, vocabulary, and some useful expressions for conversation, they need to learn how to restore face-to-face conversation when they meet a communication breakdown in their conversations. Teaching communication strategies is an effective way to improve learners' communicative competence. It is also a practical way of preventing them from over-relying on dictionaries during in-class communicative activities. That's all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.